All right, people, we're back. Episode number 88. And this one, we're talking about productive ways to spend your free time. If you want to make the monies, you want to be a successful young man, young woman, maybe old man or old woman. We're not discriminating based on age. Um, Things that you can do in your free time instead of watching Netflix or watching bullshit YouTube videos, playing video games, just generally doing things that are not going to improve your life. Ways you can spend your time that might actually improve your life. Now, I'm mainly looking to Scotty for the answers here because I think he's a lot better than me at this specifically. Like Scotty, I don't think you spend a whole lot of time watching Netflix or watching random YouTube videos, playing video games. I mean, I don't really play video games, but I definitely do spend a decent amount of time like just watching random shit on YouTube. Sometimes watching Netflix at night. Um, I feel like you're really good about just like not doing those things, and you're always doing something kind of productive. So I really want to hear from you mainly on this about maybe we can start off with you talking about the things that you tend to spend your time, and when you got that free time when you're just chilling, don't have any more work to do, and you're just kind of burned out on work for the day. What are you doing?
Um, whew, there's a lot of different ways to start this off. So, at the moment, with my current routine in Switzerland, the way it works is my mornings are pretty free because everyone in the United States is sleeping, which is fantastic. So, I wake up pretty late and start my day off trying to read something. And I just kind of have time to read and think and come up with ideas, which I like. And then as the afternoon progresses, end up doing a lot of busy work where people are hitting me up, people want stuff from me. And when I'm in Switzerland or in the European time zone, my afternoons and evenings are pretty much just filled with constant work, then dinner, then more work. And then at some point I say I'm done. Maybe I go for a walk, shower and sleep. So there's not really an after work phase when I'm in the Swiss time zone. When I'm or when I was in closer to the US time zone, I ended up working mornings, afternoons, and then evenings. I'd go to jujitsu, and after jujitsu, I'd just be done. Or as soon as I leave for jujitsu, I'm essentially done for the day, work wise. Um, so those are kind of two different schedules. Neither of them, I'd end up watching a lot of Netflix, YouTube, video games. I watch YouTube or rather listen to YouTube videos a lot of the time when I'm doing other stuff. So if I'm cooking, eating, I've usually got something on in the background. But I don't think I've ever really watched YouTube videos ever in my life. It's always been a listening thing. Um, so that kind of helps because I have no desire to sit and watch YouTube videos ever. But if I'm doing something else, I always need to have something on, which is probably a bad habit to cut out.
That's funny. I feel like you and me are the opposite in that respect. Like if I'm cooking or eating or something, like most of the time I don't even have anything on. It depends. Sometimes I do, but there's a lot of times where I just don't have anything on. But then, I mean, like when I'm just like burnt out on work for the day, and I've already worked out, I've already been outside, I've already done all of those types of things. There's nothing I love more than just freaking plopping down on the couch and throwing some random shit up on YouTube. There's an abundance of just random shit to watch, man. And it's sometimes it's interesting, but it's definitely not a great habit.
Yeah, I just never do that. It doesn't appeal to me. I think it's just habitual. I think you do it because it's a habit. I don't do it because I never developed that habit.
Mm.
Productive ways to spend your time, though, apart from our different schedules. I would say reading's great. I mean, you can replace Netflix, YouTube, mindless listening to music, whatever. You can always replace that with reading. Um, Part of that is that you have to find things that you actually want to read, because otherwise it's going to be a painful process. So if you
That
can
is,
just find something you're actually fascinated by and really want to read, it becomes pretty easy.
yeah, that's a good one. It's just I think that's probably my main issue is I just don't have enough stuff that I'm like really interested to read. Because I got so many books. Like I've ordered so many books over the course of the last like year or two that are just kind of sitting around in my house. And when it comes to the end of the day and I'm just like burnt out on work and just, don't really feel like using my brain anymore, like getting myself to read that's a big ask because I just don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything that requires me to use my brain.
Yeah, I don't feel like reading requires a whole lot of brain energy. At least the like marketing books that we're reading, they're pretty simple to read generally.
Yeah, no, I mean they definitely are, and that's like I don't know. I'm just kind of speaking from my experience because this is something that like us doing this episode. Like one of the reasons I wanted to do this episode is to kind of like inspire me to to pick up some better habits, I suppose. Um, because it's just like it's a lot, man, and I just don't think it's healthy to be consuming so much content, whether it's Netflix or YouTube or whatever it is. It's there's just too much of it out there, and like I don't think our brains are designed to handle all of this, and I think that it really can mess up our ability to focus, to like actually want to work on something long term. It's not good for you. I don't think so. Scotty, you used to I don't know if you do this anymore, but I remember whenever you would watch Netflix, you would watch it in Spanish. Is that correct?
Yeah, I still do that.
Yeah. So basically, if you are watching Netflix, you're watching it in Spanish, and it's like you're using that as a learning experience to get better at at the Spanish language.
Yep. But then at the same time, that ends up being kind of I end up procrastinating on doing that rather than procrastinating by doing that. You see what I mean? It's like I actually want to be watching more Netflix, but I tend to run out of time in the day to do that.
Hmm.
Um, Same thing with BJJ instructionals. I've got a bunch of videos and like course type content that I want to go through, and I just end up running out of time to actually go through that. And I think with all this stuff, if you want to actually make it a habit and consistently do it, I think if it's a small thing, like if you want to make stretching a habit, do it like every time you walk into a certain room, like every time you go to the bathroom, or every time you come back into your bedroom, office, whatever, do the stretch. That works if it's like a little task, but if it's something bigger that needs like uninterrupted time, you can do. I would prioritize it by doing it in the morning. So have it first thing in the morning. All you do is read. Like you don't do anything before you read for 30 minutes. Or if you're doing hand copying sales letters, you don't do anything else before you've hand copied your sales letters. That's what's always worked best for me. And I have to say it works a lot better when I'm in this European time zone versus when I'm in the US time zone.
Hmm.
Just those uninterrupted mornings where it's like idle time, study time, whatever I want to work on time. Um, Much prefer to than waking up to already getting messages and needing to answer to people and stuff like that. I guess you could be disciplined and just not check emails or messages in the morning, but it's a heck of a lot easier when messages just simply don't come in until like 2 p.m.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. That's definitely interesting with the whole time zone thing.
It's interesting how it changes the way you work in your entire day. I
Hmm.
don't even know which I prefer. There's pros and cons to each. When I'm in Europe, I just inevitably end up working later and I end up getting up later in the morning. If you're trying to schedule calls, you're always looking at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 p.m. Um, so there's pros and cons for sure, but it just automatically adjusts how you spend your time. I also think something that was huge for me, not so much now, but when I was studying this stuff, marketing, direct response, was using the time on your commute. Tougher if you're driving, although I guess you could do audiobooks. But us Europeans that hop on the train every day, like that is perfect time to be reading a book, and it adds up massively. If you just instead of staring out the window and listening to music, you read a book every time you're on a train for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, there and back every day, that adds up massively. So
Hmm.
that was something huge for me, honestly, where it's just time that you could have wasted or you could read. And like reading in the train is not, you don't need that much focus. You have enough focus in the train to read. So that's really like using idle time like that well, I think is really really something valuable. Same thing with flights. Like if you're on a flight, why are you watching a shitty movie when you could be reading something or going through a course or whatever you want to do?
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's great advice. I mean, reading is probably one of the best replacements for things like Netflix or YouTube or other forms of mindless entertainment. Other things that I've been trying to do more often is one, just like going for walks. Just like, I mean, you can do this literally anywhere. Um, put some shoes on, put some clothes on, and you go outside and you walk around. Pretty simple. For me, a lot
I
of
like
the
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 step
like
by step.
take it step by step, as I said.
And no, I like the step by step instructions for how to take a walk.
Yeah, yeah. In case you didn't know, um, for me, a lot of these things of like what productive ways to spend your time. It's not so much for me about being super productive. It's about minimizing the amount of time that I'm doing these kind of mind numbing things of scrolling through Twitter, scrolling through Instagram, watching bullshit on YouTube. I don't think there's anything like inherently wrong with doing these things. But the problem is over time, the more you do them, they fuck up your brain. Like I can tell when I'm on social media a lot, I don't have a lot of motivation to sit down and focus and do work for, multiple hours uninterrupted. It's a lot tougher when I've been on social media for a couple hours to get back into that kind of like focused mindset. And I think the more that you can do stuff that isn't related to all this mindless, consuming of content, it's just like the better. The more focused you're going to be, the more clear headed you're going to be, the happier you'll probably be. Because it's just like it's a completely different digital world that you can kind of use as like escapism and to just like forget about your daily life, whatever. But like if you're trying to do great things in life, you're trying to be like a high achiever of some sort. You can't just go to escape. Like you have to you have to be there and you have to use your time wisely and you have to have a clear head and you got to have all these things and just these mindless forms of entertainment just like completely suck it out of you. Walking's a great thing. Honestly, like meditating, as much as I really don't very much enjoy meditating, it's freaking boring as hell. Just sitting there for 10-20 minutes, just closing your eyes and just like being inside yourself, I think is a really great way to spend your time, honestly, especially if you can, like the longer you do that, the more consistently you do it, the better it makes you feel. And I don't know if meditation is for everyone, but I think that's a really good way to spend your time. Going through courses, if you got courses, I mean, listen to the ecom dispensary, probably a great way to spend your time. Trying to think what else.
Although again, I would listen to Ecom Dispensary while doing something else.
Yeah, while you go for a walk or
While you're cooking, while you're eating.
in the kitchen. Yeah, all of those things.
I think the big thing is cutting out rather than things to do. It's finding what really hurts you, what really hurts your productivity, your mood, and cutting those things out. I know for myself, Twitter's not great, Instagram's not great, YouTube's not great, but Netflix is about 10 times worse than everything else. Because if I'm watching a series and I'll get super into it and I'll want to watch it whenever during the day. I'll get up and I'll want to watch it. Lunch, I want to watch all the time. I don't want to work. I want to watch it. And
Mm.
I notice not while I'm watching it, but after I watch it, I feel worse. I have no motivation. I feel lethargic. I feel worse for doing it, but I'm drawn to do it. Really like an addiction. Um, and all the other things I mentioned, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, don't have the same effect. So I know for myself, Netflix is by far the worst. So I just don't allow myself to watch Netflix. And then
Hmm.
again, when you're watching it in a foreign language, that kind of limits how much you're going to watch because it does become a more active thing, a more exhausting thing when you're trying to follow it. You really have to focus. And I notice like when I'm watching it in Spanish without subtitles, I understand just about everything, but I really notice when I start to get tired if I'm watching at night, I suddenly need subtitles. So you can really tell how dialed in you are. So when you start to not understand things, you're like, oh, I'm not paying enough attention. I need to focus more. Um, That's a really like a wake up measure. Whereas if you're watching in English, and English is your main language, um, you can kind of like turn your brain off and just be like completely idle and still kind of follow everything. And that's when you're like, you're not even fully immersed in watching. You're just kind of wasting time.
Hmm. Yeah, that's somewhat true. I think for me, YouTube is probably the worst. I definitely do. I don't really watch Netflix that much unless I find a show that I get really into. Like recently, I got really into the show Outer Banks, and it was the exact same thing that you were just talking about, Scotty. Like I was on like episode. There were like 10 episodes, and I was on. I think I finished episode 7 like the night before, and then I started watching episode 8 at like 1 p.m. the next day. Like I did my work in the morning, and then I probably could have done more work, probably could have done other productive things, but instead I just sat down for 3 hours and watched the last 3 episodes because I was just like, I had to finish it. Like that's just, I feel like such a piece of shit whenever I do that, which is extremely rare. Like that's probably the only time that I've done that in the past year. Um, but it is funny, like all these things. I think you really got to keep in mind with all these mindless forms of entertainment. They're all made to like keep you watching them. They're all made to keep you as addicted as possible. Um, and they're good at it. They're good at doing that, and your brain is not really evolved to be able to handle that level of stimulation without having some sort of negative effects. One other thing that I did want to say that I think is a good productive way to spend your free time is just like spending time with your friends and your family. Like actually intentionally working to like become closer with the people that are in your life, working to build those relationships. I think that's a really great way to spend your time, especially if you're doing something like outside or something active or, not just like sitting around on the couch. I think that's probably one of the best ways you can spend your time.
Wise words, Schmitty.
Besides that, I mean, it's kind of just about moderating these things. I don't think you need to necessarily cut out Netflix or YouTube or video games entirely. Oh, maybe some of you do. Maybe some people do. If you feel like you do, then you probably do. You probably know that you're in that category. If you're spending more than, I don't even know. I mean, more than like a couple hours a day doing these things, it's probably not healthy. And I mean, again, like we're not perfect on these things. Scotty's definitely better than I am. I probably spend a decent amount of time, especially in the evenings, just chilling, watching random shit. But
Dude, watch the shittiest YouTube videos of all time too. Like if I'm watching YouTube videos, I'm generally watching something like semi-intelligent. I'm watching some sort of an interview.
mm-hmm.
Whereas you're watching like a dude walking up to someone at a gas station and fucking with him.
Ross Creations. When I was in Mexico, I was getting super into his videos.
Like maximally retarded videos.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, it's pure entertainment. There's no educational value. I mean, honestly, in a lot of the stuff I watch on YouTube, there is some sort of educational value, but it's like kind of like fake educational value. Like I watch like a decent amount of like documentaries and just about random stuff about like nature documentaries or history or whatever. Like this dude, Wendover Productions, he makes really solid videos that just about like I don't know. They're like kind of educational, but they're more entertaining than anything. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's just like it's not a good habit, but kind of back to what you were saying earlier. You're saying it's more about cutting things out. I agree, but you also have to replace that time. If you spend a lot of time doing these things that you probably shouldn't be doing, you're gonna all of a sudden, if you stop doing those things, you're gonna have a lot of free time, and you got to have something to kind of replace that with. And I think when it comes to myself, I think I just need to be better about like just getting like forcing myself to read, in the evenings instead of just watching some bullshit.
I mean, you could also start like, say, if you're someone like me who listens to YouTube videos while cooking, cleaning, etc. Switch out the Ross Creations bullshit with I don't know, what was that event you went to? The Cartel's Mastermind. Listen to all their interviews. All their interviews are fucking great. Like,
Yeah.
listen to that instead of fucking Ross Creation pranks.
Well, I don't listen to that, bro. That's something you watch, okay?
That's something you should not watch or listen or do anything.
No, I mean, I would kind of disagree with that. Like, I don't think that you need to not ever do these things. You know, like that guy specifically puts out a video once a week. If you spend 11 minutes once a week, you know, like, that's not a problem.
You're going
If
to hell for sure.
you're going to hell, yeah, the devil's gonna strike you down, or God's gonna strike you down, and the devil's gonna, I don't know, he's gonna bring you down to hell, something like that. But it's just about moderating these things, just making sure that you're not getting caught up in all of the endless consumption and content that is out there these days. This is a very new thing, just having endless entertainment right at your fingertips. And sometimes it's just better to put it down, man. Sometimes it's better just put it down, go for a walk, read a book, meditate, maybe, you know, work on learning a new language, do something that is going to be, you know, better for you than just kind of mindless consumption, because that doesn't really help you build anything. And that's what we're all about, man. We're all about building, link and grow and build and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's about it. You got anything else you want to add here, Scotsman?
Yeah. If you're trying to figure out if something's a bad habit or if you should cut it out or not, ask yourself if it leaves you energized or not. Anything that leaves you energized is a good thing to be doing.
I think that's good advice. I think that's good advice. Cool. Well, boys and gals, I think that'll do it for this one. We got one more episode for you after this one. We'll talk to y'all there.